Yes, you can totally use this technique. In fact, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I do it. Now, I'm going to be applying quite a few layers of product, but they're going to be very thin layers. To me, that just makes so much more sense than just taking one product and hoping that it does everything for you. If we can build in small sheer layers and get a nice neutralized under eye, we'll be golden. Because we are using so many layers, I'm going to make sure my under eyes are nice and hydrated. This is the Murad Targeted Wrinkle Corrector, and I love how comforting and soothing this feels under the eye. Plus, this metal tip fits the contours of the face so nicely. Now, if you have dry skin, that should really help perk up your under eyes, but if you're oily, take a little bit of a mattifying primer, like seriously that much. Warm it up between your fingers. You almost want it to like disappear. Lightly tap it over the eye cream so that you're still hydrated, but you are slightly mattified. Now it's time to add our orange. Start to blend, spritz the face. I'm adding a concealer that matches my skin tone, using a fluffy brush to blend that out over the orange, and add a little concealer underneath the eye to neutralize this orange. And I use this to seal in our concealer with your foundation over it. I've covered exactly how I apply that in a different video. Now let's focus on the under eyes. We're neutralized, but they're not bright. What we're gonna do is grab a super bright concealer and mix it into the concealer we put on the face. And you don't need much. This can look really intimidating and frightening, but I'm just gonna tap it on. Add the concealer that you used for your face over it. Let it dry down for 5 to 10 seconds. And while this is drying down, I tell you why I like to wait for some products to dry down. If you want your concealers to have longevity and staying power and be a little bit more firm whenever you're blending it out, let it dry down. If you don't want that and you want more of a wash of color and you want things to be a little bit more fluid and more sheer, blend out immediately. For the face, I blend out immediately because I like lighter layers, but for the under eye, I like it to be a little more opaque, a little more heavy duty, so I prefer to let it dry down. Now that it's dried, we're gonna take our brush and push those two colors together. And you can see as I'm blending it out, it's lighter than the rest of our face, which is what I prefer, but it's still in the same color family. And by the way, I love to blend out my concealer with brushes. I'm definitely more of a brush girl than a sponge girl. Now, if you have a lot of under eye texture and lines, I always have since I was a kid, the brush completely vertical, look up and then wedge that brush underneath that lower lid to really get in there, and then back in with the head of the brush to shear out the edges of the concealer. Now, as soon as I can, I need to set that under eye with a light layer of foundation powder to stop any immediate creasing. And as I'm setting it with powder, I'm going to tilt my chin down. When I tilt my chin down, you can see this shadowing right there. That lets me know how low I need to take the powder to get nice, even coverage. Now that the under eyes have that initial seal of powder, we can go in with a baking product to essentially brighten even more. And for today, I'm going to use the By Terry powder. Now, a little bit of this goes a very long way, and I like to warm it up in my palm to make sure that it's spread out evenly throughout the powder puff. Now, I don't just dust the powder on in a thick layer. I press and roll it in to the skin, so this manually rolls out any creasing that we might have and marries the concealer, the foundation, the powder, all of our eye prep together, so you have a nice, smooth, cohesive under eye. And now with whatever powder is left on the face is what I bake with. So now this is what I'm going to leave on for just a few minutes before dusting it off. Okay, now that some time has passed, it's time to dust this off. And rather than just going in and straight dusting it off the skin, I actually like to sandwich my powders. So you're going to take that first foundation powder that you used to lock in the under eyes before this loose powder, and then use that to dust it off. And as those two mix together, you get a nice lifted seamless blend. It brings the color back to baseline, but the finish is so much smoother. And again, I know this seems like a lot of layers, but I use very light amounts of product and build strategically. Now to finish off the rest of the face, I'm going to grab a warmer powder, and then where the under eye brightness meets the rest of our face, I'm just going to bridge those two colors together, kind of going up and down in a zigzag motion. So for this side, you can see the brightness kind of stops right through here, and then our warmth starts to come through here. Just add the powder and then zigzag to bring those together. Then this is a complexion. I know it seems like a lot of steps and a lot of layers. Like I said, I build slowly, strategically, in thin layers. This is the result. I'm going to finish off the rest of the face and we'll come back. And this is the finished makeup look with the under eyes corrected, brightened, and lifted.